Hi, my name is CMeadows, and today I'll be talking about whether the race of a child being adopted and the race of the adopted parent should be an issue, and if safe sex should be taught in elementary school, middle school, or if it should just be talked about at home. So I believe that the race of a child and the race of the adopting parent should not be an issue because I've seen many kids that have been adopted that are not the same race as their parents, and they're just as happy as they could be. So I don't see a problem with that. Whenever you're adopting a child, there's many situations in the adoption process a child could have gone through. So it could be a newborn child, or it could even be a child that has lived a couple years with their biological parents and they've already taken in some aspects of their biological parents' culture. So our book talks about um, you being born into your culture, but in the adoption process, you'd be part of acculturation, which is a process by which one's culture is modified through contact with another culture. This was found on page 32 in DeVito's book. I believe it's the child's choice to pick which culture he wants to be a part of. The two choices he would have would either be adopt a new culture, which is assimilation perspective, or he could choose to learn the culture he was born into, which is called cultural diversity. These were found on page 33 in DeVito's book. So now I'll talk about whether or not safe sex should be taught in elementary school, middle school, or if it should just be talked about at home. So first and foremost, I believe that regardless of when it's talked about, I think that it should definitely be talked about with all kids. Um, I was never taught through school about sex education. I remember in fifth grade, I had a puberty class, and we just really talked about starting to use deodorant more and starting to grow hair in your body changing, but nothing about sexual intercourse. Um, Author Justin Healy, he wrote the book Discussing Sexual Health, which is one of the books I used for my research. He stated in one of his chapters that research shows talking to young people about sex does not encourage them to experiment sexually. And I agree with that. And that kind of backs up the information that says, you could teach it to a kid in elementary school, but once again, I don't believe kids in elementary school are mature enough to talk about that because I remember in my class in fifth grade, we talked nothing about sex, but it was all a joking manner. No one really took it serious. Um, Another thing that he stated in his book is that school-based sexuality improves the sexual health and outcome of young people, and I do agree with that because if the school doesn't talk about it, it's put to the parents, and it's not always a guarantee that the parents are going to have that talk with their kids. Um, so whenever I found out I was going to write about this topic, I actually did a survey of 10 of my friends. 5 guys and 5 girls were surveyed. 8 of the 10 people said they had a talk with their parents. 3 guys said they talked, and 5 girls said they had a talk with their parents. The 2 guys that said they did not talk to their parents, I asked them why, and they said that both of their situations where their parents went through a divorce. So they really just never had the time. It was a bunch of hassle for them. They never had the time to do it. And one of the guys that didn't have the talk, he actually has a 2-year-old little girl. He's 20 years old now. He has a 2-year-old little girl. And he told me, he loves his daughter to death and all. He said, but he didn't participate in safe sex, and he had a really good baseball career ahead of him, and he couldn't move on to the collegiate level because of that. So another book I used was The Sex Education Debate by Nancy Kendall, and she stated that the United States has the highest rate of adolescents and unwanted pregnancies among industrial countries. So this kind of supports the fact saying, safe sex needs to be talked about to all kids no matter what point and stage in their life it is. I believe it should be talked about in elementary school and at home. One elementary school so they get the general aspect, and 2 at home kind of getting it to a deeper aspect. So in conclusion, I believe that race should not be a matter to decide whether or not a parent should be able to adopt a kid, and that safe sex should be talked about in middle school and at home to get into a deeper aspect. Thank you.